If you pursue any degree from a tier 3 or a tier 2 college in India, there's a very high chance that you will end up with no job after college. And even if you're in tier 1 and if you become capable enough, the market will lowball you with such a depressing salary that you will regret going to college in the first place. The issue with on-campus placements is that companies come with a fixed budget. So there is no room for negotiation. You have zero leverage because if you say no, there's like 100 guys behind you to get the same offer. But if you're able to build the right skills that are rare in the market, but in high demand, you can always go for an off-campus placement and ask whatever price you want. So in today's video, I will be covering a skill that I have spoken about multiple times, but today I'm finally going to deep dive into it. We will understand pattern finding and specifically 5 types of pattern findings that are individual skills that will help you boost your critical thinking skills, and they might actually help you earn more than what you have learned in your 4-year degree. Now, learning these 5 types of pattern finding skills will help you get more opportunities than any of your on-campus placements. The problem is that everybody on YouTube is too obsessed with AI. They will tell you how you need to learn AI agents and automations and harness engineering and a bunch of things, which is great. But honestly, with the kind of slop that we're seeing all over the internet and the way AI is moving, in the next 2 to 3 years, people will know a lot about artificial intelligence, but very little about real intelligence. Now, in each of these 5 pattern finding skills, 60% to 70% of the heavy lifting is going to be done through your own judgment and your own real intelligence. But there is some part of your work, 30 to 40%, that can be accelerated with AI. I want you to learn that AI should stand for augmented intelligence and not just artificial intelligence, because having augmented intelligence is going to help you a lot more. So I'm going to first give you all of the pattern finding skills. So we will talk about people patterns, which is all about reading behavior; system patterns, understanding how things connect to each other; temporal patterns, which is about recognizing patterns from repeating history; data patterns, which is doing numerical judgment; and then market patterns, which are basically laws of the universe. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's start with people patterns, which is all about reading behavior. You know, anytime I go to a sales pitch or meet anybody in general, I've realized that a large part of your success does not depend on how good you are with technology. A lot of it is around how good you are with people. Unfortunately, folks who are in technical domains or in the fields of engineering, they often miss understanding how to read people. Now, there are many more authors in this world who can teach you about these things better than me. But I have already made a very interesting YouTube video which is called How to Party. And that entire video was all around club dynamics, that when you go to the most elitist nightclubs in Delhi, what happens? Because when I was a lot into clubbing around 4-5 years ago, I think I've met more successful people and more millionaires and more billionaires actually in nightclubs as compared to, meeting them at a hackathon or at some networking event. So when you're growing in life, if you genuinely want to succeed, of course you need to be good with technology, but if you're good with people, if you know how to read people, and if you know how to read faces, and if you can predict pattern, and if you can understand what drives someone, that will completely change your life. And I would strongly recommend you to deep dive into Robert Greene's learnings. But at this point, I'll tell you what I usually do. If I have less time, and if I want to learn something new, I would go to a tool like Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT and simply say that I want to deep dive into this specific subject. I want you to first collect the list of all important books, all important research. So it would give me a big list of the most important books and study material. Then I would ask AI to deep dive into the most important takeaways from individual pieces of material. And it would collect all of these important ideas, and then I would keep rereading them about them. But the most valuable things in life cannot be learned without experience. right? You have to do this on your own, and you have to observe a lot on how people behave and learn. And this understanding of people's psychology will help you in almost every domain in life. The second kind of pattern finding is system patterns on how things connect to each other. And there are two topics that I want to teach. One is causation and the other is correlation. Now, again, you can go to AI and deep dive into this entire concept, but the core fundamental truth here is that when you observe life and when you look at something fail or when you look at something succeed, your mind tries to form a logical explanation. And a lot of us think that the first 4 or 5 suggestions that come into our mind are probably the best suggestions. But in reality, it's not. And there's a very interesting theory by Mr. Peter Thiel where he says that if you look at something and if you decide that there are 5 reasons why this thing worked, there's a very high chance that there were 10 reasons why it worked. And you've just not discovered the remaining 5. If you go and analyze your failures, and if you think that I failed because of these 5 reasons, and if you decide not to repeat those 5 mistakes in your second attempt, you can still fail. Because guess what? Maybe you failed because of 5 extra hidden reasons that you never discovered in the first attempt. So you have to always ask yourselves that in an environment where there are multiple people and multiple players and multiple variables influencing something, how are things connected to each other? Am I just being delusional about how something might cause something else? Or is it just things running in parallel? So this is where the difference between causation and correlation comes in. Then you have temporal patterns, historical patterns. When I studied AI, I realized that I have a far better chance of predicting what will happen in the future by not asking people what will happen in the future, but by actually studying what has happened in the past. Because history might not repeat, but it always rhymes. And this is where you have to ask yourself that if you have some stories or data or some patterns that have recursively happened in the world, in the society, across different departments, across different niches, across different subjects, that is a clue for you. It is going to be the most phenomenal thing for you if you become good at history as a technologist. If you are building something for the future, but if your insights are grounded in the recursive patterns of history, I'm telling you, everything feels like a video game. Let's think of it from an architect's perspective. If there is an architect for this universe, that architect has 110% designed some predefined laws. The problem is that when I hire anybody or when I meet new people and when I ask them, what is it that you do? You know what they tell me? They would say that I know XYZ software. I have done XYZ degree. I have XYZ in this XYZ experience. It doesn't matter. All of these things can easily be reverse engineered. Things that are the most valuable in life are always around pattern finding. They're always around your ability to recognize those similar laws of nature. In fact, I had come across this article that explained 11 repeating laws of universe. I would strongly recommend you to go through that list because it will fundamentally change the way you look at universe. And when you start playing with these rules, when you start understanding how those laws repeat with each other, and once you start analyzing what has happened in the history, you can predict the future. And when you can predict the future, you can either take better decisions for yourself or for your team or for the company where you work at. And when you start doing that, it almost feels like you're betting. It's almost like cheating. You need to read people, you need to understand how things connect to each other, and you need to learn a lot about history because that will tell you what will happen in the future. You'll be able to spot recursive patterns faster than ever. The fourth kind of pattern finding is data patterns, which is all about practicing judgment based on numbers, and I think this is where AI will help you the most. I see so many people wasting so much of money on sales and marketing without asking themselves what are the numbers saying. Now, they usually have this team of people, a bunch of data analytics folks who will probably make like a bunch of Excel sheets, make bar graphs and pie charts and just show visualizations. Making sense of data is not about visualizations. Making sense of data is understanding the why behind a certain number. So if you combine the concepts of causation and correlation with numbers, I'm telling you, your entire game takes itself to the next level. And let me know in the comment section if you want some videos about intuition, because intuition in general, in my opinion, is something which is a very beautiful blend of your own brain running very fast Excel formulas and at the very same time trying to find patterns in the universe. right? So intuition is something which will help you beat 90% of your competition in the job market, because the fun part about intuition is that you can't reverse engineer it. You can't put a prescription to it. You can't put an SOP to intuition. So coming back to the topic, if you practice just the basics of data analysis using Claude or even using Gemini inside of Google Sheets, that will help you become a far more valuable employee as compared to a person who only knows how to spend resources. Because practicing numerical judgment will also help you track the ROI of all the resources that you spend. And in the end, market patterns, which is very similar to laws of the universe, but sometimes I also call this as laws of the market. People buy things that help them forget about their problems. People buy things that help them save time. People buy things that help them either save money or earn money. It's as simple as that. And in a free market, the only way to win is to either be better, faster, or cheaper. Most people can crack 1. If you crack 2, incredible. If you crack 3, you're a game changer. So you have to ask yourself that in the industry that I am operating in, or if you're entering a specific industry, who are the players who are faster? Who are the players who are cheaper? And who are the players who are better? And there's a very interesting perspective that I learned from Alex Hormozi. He said that you have to major in the minors. When you go to a free market, if you go to a fish market, or if you go to a place that is filled with bakeries, you will see one person doing very well with branding. You will see one person doing very well with taste. You will see one restaurant doing very well with interiors. But there's going to be one player who's going to be noticing on things that nobody else is noticing on. And when you start doing that, when you start majoring in the minors, when you practice the ability to look at something in absolute, the most deepest way possible, when you start noticing the most tiniest details that other players are ignoring, you're able to crack new patterns. You're able to disrupt the pattern. So there's 2 ways to dominate. Either you take an existing pattern and you double down on it, or you break the pattern. You introduce a pattern interrupt. And when that happens in the market, suddenly all eyes are on you. So to summarize, if you want a better salary, if you want other people to respect you, these are the 5 different kinds of pattern finding skills that you can start practicing today. I will be sharing a bunch of different Substack articles on all of these individual resources one by one, so that you can deep dive into all of them. And let me know in the comment section if you want more such videos, because rather than just teaching you about AI, we've decided to make more videos on RI, which is your real intelligence. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button. I hope that you're taking care of your mind and body. This is your dost Ansh Mehra, and you are learning from the Cutting Edge School.